This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
When I was putting together my first book, I did a stretch in Washington as a newspaper correspondent. And every day I went over to the Congress and reported on the inmates there. It was very entertaining. One of them got a bill passed to construct a dam where there wasn't any water. But they didn't find out about it until they built the dam. So they had an investigation to see if they could build a river to save the dam. God made idiots first. That was for practice. Then he made Congress. I have always wondered why God invented lawyers. Did his mind wander? The more I see of lawyers, the more I favor hanging.
Legendary actor Hal Holbrook on this edition of Conversations. Hal Holbrook is a skilled and practiced performer with a resume to back it up. He has won a Tony Award for his one-man show, Mark Twain Tonight. He has an Academy Award nomination for the movie Into the Wild. He's a 12-time Emmy nominee and a 5-time winner. In a society that has become obsessed with stars, Hal Holbrook may very well be a star. But first and foremost, he is an actor that has honed and perfected his craft. From the stage to the big screen to television, Hal Holbrook has defined what it means to be an actor. Recently, he put his life story in print. His autobiography is entitled Harold, the Boy Who Became Mark Twain. We welcome Hal Holbrook to Conversations. Sir, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on this program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jeff.
New book out, Harold, the Boy Who Became Mark Twain. How did young Hal Holbrook become Mark Twain?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. It was a long process of research and working hard, going on the road, doing shows, searching, listening to audiences around the country, trying to see what they would take. I remember before, that only takes you up to 1959 when I was 34 years old. Because the book got so long, I had to stop. And that was a good place to stop, because that's when I went into New York and I had this enormous success, which was a total shock to me. But I would test out on the road before I was going into New York, like religious material, for example, you know. And Mark Twain liked to kid man's idea of God. He liked to kid man's concept of his relationship with God, forgetting the fact that man does not behave very well.
Right.
He doesn't behave very well at all. All you got to do is open a history book or listen to somebody my age talking about years ago, you know? And so I would go from one place to another, like Iowa, and the show would go pretty good. Then I'd go down into Kansas, and suddenly it would be dead quiet on that material that I got. And I got very scared before I went into New York. I thought, I wonder if they're going to take this.
When you went into New York, what type of material did you talk about?
It was tough. I talked about racism. Mark Twain spent a great deal of time, just not only with Huckleberry Finn, talking about our experience with slavery, and he understood it because he lived in a slave state. Right. He was brought up in a slave culture. He played with slave children. He understood it. It's not like a one-sided blank idea of, You have to understand everybody.
Right.
You have to understand why there was slavery, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a great evil that infected our idealism about what country we had put together here. And Huckleberry Finn is a great story about terrible treatment of black people, which he saw. He lived it. He went up and down the Mississippi River to New Orleans, and he saw slaves being auctioned, women and men.
Yeah.
He saw it. He saw slaves with their sweat glistening on their muscles throwing 500-pound bales of cotton on his steamboat. So he saw, and then he went west. He saw the treatment of the Chinese in San Francisco. He wrote about it. He was banished by the chief of police. And so, he talked about the corruption in government. I mean, as early as the 1870s, after the war, after the war, this country, which had been an agrarian pioneer society, I mean, in 1860, what was out there beyond the Mississippi River was not really fresh and lovely. There was an awful lot of wild country out there. And people forget that, you just didn't go trotting out there in a Buick or something.
Right.
And he wrote a great deal about what had happened to this country when it turned the corner into an industrialized society. Factories began, oil became a big deal, mining for coal became a big deal, and great fortunes were made by Rockefeller, Vanderbilt with the railroads, Carnegie with the steel mills, you name it. And they were great corporations. They were immensely rich men. In those days, to be a millionaire was like a billionaire today.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Mark Twain wrote about the evils that were encroaching upon our way of life and our idealism. I mean, beginning with the sweatshops with 10 and 12-year-old children from Eastern Europe working 12 and 14 hours a day. He made speeches about it. He married the daughter of one of the leading abolitionists in the state of New York, Jervis Langdon, who was very active in the Underground Railway and who helped a black man escape to the north, who I think was working in the Baltimore shipyards. And his name was Frederick Douglass. And he became the leader of the black people in the last half of that century. And Mark Twain, his father-in-law, I mean, he sat at the table with him in Elmira when one of the Irish maids refused to serve Mr. Douglass. Mark Twain's father-in-law fired her. So, I mean, this is to give you an idea. Well, this little boy on the banks of the dusty banks of the little town of Hannibal, back there in 1836 when he was 5, when he was born, how he grew. This is a template for how people can grow, which is what's really interesting about people. How he grew from this little boy. He had a big head. He was one of those people with a big head. And he filled that head with a tremendous amount of impressions and thoughtfulness, and he was intelligent, and he watched, and he learned, and he learned, and he learned, and he learned. By the time he was going around the world, visiting other countries and lecturing around the world, he became a world citizen. And we don't have anybody like that today.
Right.
The closest you could imagine is to what Mark Twain was like when he came back to this country around 1900 would be Winston Churchill. He was a world citizen.
Yeah.
When the press went down to the boat to meet him when he came in after being away 5 years around the world and living in Europe, went down to the docks in New York to interview him. They asked him about his the anti-imperialist league, because we were by that time flexing our muscles. We were now a world power. As Mark Twain said, now we're a world power and have a seat up front with the family with tax in it, you know. And so he was asked what he thought about, our experience in the Philippines, which is pretty shoddy.
Right.
He said, I am against the eagle placing its talons on any other land.
What do you think Mark Twain would say if he were alive today?
Oh, Lord in heaven. We're living in a fraught time of history, particularly our own history. And the reason I get out on the stage with such enthusiasm these days, I always have, but now it's become a passion, because we're living through a terribly difficult time for everybody. And people have to think. Mm-hmm. They have to really think their way out of this mess that we've been put into. And this great tradition we have of the corporate, the great wealth of the corporations, the wonderful contribution that corporations have done, we've taken the idea of capitalism and driven it right into the cellar of greed. We've taken this great idea of capitalism and driven it underground in the cellar of greed. And that is killing us.
I think we've become way too focused on ourselves and not enough on our neighbor.
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't focus on our neighbor. It's very hard to talk about these things because people have very powerful feelings, and what's his name? Tony Bennett said something the other day about 9/11. He got criticized for it. He's a wonderful man. He's a clear-thinking man. He's a great patriot, as much as most people out there, but he was misinterpreted, mm-hmm. which is dangerous. The minute you say anything about like 9/11. The minute you try to understand anything about it beyond our own horror that such a terrible, vicious thing was done to our country, the minute you step back and say, wait a minute, why do people treat us that way? You're getting into trouble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, you're getting into trouble because we don't think about how other people think.
Yeah.
We don't think that the people in the mountains of Afghanistan, they have developed a culture totally different from ours, of a different religion. But we don't think of that when we look at them. We're treating them as an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do we expect them to treat us? I mean, how are we ever going to stop having wars and killing our people, our young men and women? How are we going to stop doing that?
Some complicated questions to ask, no question. Your book here, speaking of challenges and I guess somewhat complicated, one of the things you talk about is your childhood in this book. You had an extremely challenging childhood. Tell me more.
Well, my mother and father took off when I was 2 years old, and my sisters were 1 and 3. We were 1, 2, and 3 years old, little children, left in the, according to my grandmother, who probably exaggerated, we were left in the playpen with our pants full, and our mother disappeared, and our father followed. And we never knew until I was 12 years old and found a trunk in the basement of the house that she went into show business. Because you didn't mention show business, not in my family. No, we were proper people, show business. Oops. It must have been a hell of a shock to them when I went into show business. So, I never knew anything about them, and they disappeared. And my grandfather, who was 60 years old and a successful businessman, had come from nothing in South Weymouth, Massachusetts, poorest family in town. He took these 3 little children when he was 60 years old and took us back to the home he had built for his mother in South Weymouth and raised us there until he died when we were 12. So he became a major influence in my life and a champion. He looked like Blackjack Pershing, head of the armed forces in World War I. But at the same time, my grandfather put my father in the insane asylum when he was not insane.
Why did he do that?
That's a bit too much New England for you. So, I mean, I came from a tough people. They came into this country in 1635 on one of those early boats. But they weren't like Dixie's family in Tennessee. Yeah. They weren't like the family I'm writing about now in this extension of this book. They weren't like people down here in the South who really mean it when they talk about family. Mm-hmm. They don't just pay lip service to the family relationship. They do something about it. Yeah. They are for you, as my father-in-law, Mr. Carter, would say. I'm for you, Hal. Yeah. And he meant it. Anybody did something to you, they'd go out and beat them up, by George. I never met people like that, cared that much about each other.
That's right. You were married to Dixie Carter.
I was married to Dixie Carter.
Actress and singer. And
wonderful woman. Yeah. A wonderful, kind woman. Yeah. I think of her all the time. She was so much more patient than I am. I'm a grumpy. I got this grumpy gene in me that I got from my New England folks, you know, and I don't take the time with people that Dixie did, but Dixie, to go to an airport with Dixie, my dear, darling, beautiful, gorgeous-looking wife, go to an airport and go down the concourse trying to get to the gate before the plane leaves, with her was like frightening because people would stop her and she would not only sign, she would, and where are you from? And what does your family do? What is your father? And your daddy this? And I'm thinking, we're going to miss the plane. And she took time for people.
What did you learn most from her?
To try to slow down and be kind to people. Which is tough for me. I was not brought up that way. And as you can see in that book, you are formed by who formed you. And you can't really change it. It's not only in your genes, it's what you were taught about life when you were young and you realized without realizing it, you didn't think of it, you didn't have thoughts like that, I'm a survivor. I'm out here alone. They sent me away to school when I was 7 years old, to a boarding school, to make a man of me, for gosh sakes. And looking back, I didn't think of it at the time, but when you write a book, you got to go through your life there. What was I thinking? Why did I think that? Why did they do this? Why did you do this? And I realized I must have been aware early on that I was going to have to survive on my own. Yeah. There wasn't nobody helping me out.
What kept you going, and what, not only through life, but also through the acting business, because anybody that knows anything about entertainment knows it's fraught with rejection.
Yeah.
What kept you going? Where was your inner strength?
My respect for my profession. I have a deep respect for my profession because I studied my profession, because I read the books about great actors of history and our history, and also Edmund Kean in England. I mean, you talk about going through HEWL, you know, to try to achieve a success in Booth and Forrest and Irving. I read books about actors. I understand what my profession, this is a great profession. Unfortunately, when you go to a college today and you talk to kids who are in the theater department and want to be actors, you say, what do you want to be? You know what they say?
What?
A star. A star. That's a joke. I want to be a star. This is an ambition. be an actor first. Learn the craft that you are trying to assume is going to be yours. Learn something. You know, I mean, it seems like everything we do today is a way of glossing over the difficulties involved in doing it, and including thinking.
Yeah.
Including thinking. When you watch the news, if you can call it that, at night, you know how I get fired up to do my show tomorrow night?
How?
I watch the news.
There's plenty of material there.
Yeah. I watch what they call the news. You know, I go all three networks. I try to cover them all. I watch Fox News. I watch Mr. Pomposity on there. Good old what's his name? And
O'Reilly
his
or
friend
Hannity?
smirking in the background. You know, ready to chop the heads off of our president and all Democrats, and then you turn over to MSNBC, and you get the same treatment from the liberal side.
Yeah.
They're out there ready to chop off the heads of the Republicans. Great, we're in a great mess, this country. And then you go to CNN and try to find something toward the middle ground, and they got 4 people on there all talking at once, and you can't hear a word. And you get angry, you turn the set off and wait to get on the stage tomorrow night and let them have it.
Yeah. You know, I think you echo the sentiments of so many people.
I think I do too.
But I don't understand for the life of me why the networks continue to put this on. I think people are tired of opinion journalism and ready for some facts and ready to learn something. You're in Hollywood. You're where the decision makers are. You run the New York. Why isn't it changing? Money.
It's all about selling, keeping you watching, and the stupidity about that drives that point of view, and the lack of any respect for who we are and what our country is and where it needs to go to pull itself up out of this dreadful ravine we've been thrown into.
But when do we, as the American population, wake up and say, we're not going to tolerate this trash anymore, whether it's news or, for that matter, entertainment? I mean, take a look at the reality shows that are on television.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, talking about being a famous for
I
being
can't
famous.
even watch it anymore.
Yeah,
It's not thinking.
Yeah.
It's not thoughtful. And, you know, there's a certain segment of the population that degrades intellectualism. I mean, there are people who attack our president because he's intellectual. I mean, give me a break. What do we want up there? Somebody who never went to school, who never had an idea in his head? I mean, you know, it's I mean, we're in a mess. We don't have any money. But in Los Angeles, they are building a new stadium with our money, tax money. Okay? We don't have any money. The country's broke. California's broke. And Los Angeles is broke. We're building a stadium. And we're cutting out history in school, the arts, forget it, that's out. And making money on football games.
Yeah.
Now, I love football. I mean, Dixie Carter taught me that you cannot get into Tennessee if you don't watch the University of Tennessee play football. So we became great pals of great admirers of Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I'm so disturbed about what's happened to Peyton this year, but look at the Colts. I mean, but we stood on our feet when his brother, you know, won that game against the Patriots a couple of years ago. We were standing on our feet for an hour and a half. But that's not going to get us down the road.
We've got to get back to education and thinking. I'm getting short on time. Curiosity, your acting career. We've got about 2 minutes or so here. What's your favorite? Stage, film, television?
It's hard to say. It used to be stage, you know, but I'm getting older. I'm getting older, and I've learned more about acting on film, you know. Sidney Lumet once said to me something that years ago, it took me 40 years to learn how to do it. But he said, because I said, I'm acting in this. And he said, Hal, what you have to understand about film is that the camera can read your mind. The camera can read your mind. So you don't have to show it anything. On the stage, you have to show the audience something. You have to do something with your face or expression or hand. You know, not a lot, but a little. But on camera, you don't have to do anything. And when I worked with Sean Penn on Into the Wild, after I worked a half a day, I got the feeling that whatever I did was okay with him. And it took away any worry that you naturally have. Did I do right? Was that good? He would just go boom and go on to the next shot. And I just began to relax and just talk to Emil. Just talk to him.
Yeah.
I didn't try to act anymore. So I'm finally learning that.
So when it comes to film, more is or less is more, I guess.
Well, I do more film now because, except for the stage, I mean, you know, I've been doing Twain. I'm on Mark Twain's my big thing every year, I guess, but I do a lot of film and television, quite a bit for an old guy.
Well, it is a real pleasure to spend some time with you. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Spending some time with us, and best of luck as you continue to do Mark Twain and any films and television ahead.
Thank you.
The name of the book is Harold, the Boy That Became Mark Twain. I think you'll find it extremely interesting reading. And of course, don't forget Mark Twain Tonight. That's the show on stage, and when it comes to your town, I hope you get an opportunity to see it. Hal Holbrook spending some time with us on this edition of Conversations. By the way, you can check out some of our past episodes online at WSRE.org/conversations. And of course, with all that new media stuff out there, we're on Facebook as well. Just search out Conversations with Jeff Weeks. I greatly hope you enjoyed this broadcast. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you so very much for watching. Take good care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Now, I've never taken any exercise except sleeping and resting. I could never see any benefit in being tired. When the urge to exercise comes over me, I lie down until it passes away.
Support for this program is provided in part by these corporate sponsors. And by viewers like you.